Kevin Hunter here on the Business Forum Show, and our guest in studio is Steve Franco, and across from me as well is Stephanie Hunter, and we're visiting about Steve's show that's on stage here in Minnesota, In-Laws, Outlaws, and Other People Who Should Be Shot. So let's visit about this a little bit, Steve, because you've been in the theater community for 23 years, and having educated, have done a lot of, written several shows, and also directed many shows. You have a really good sense for what is good theater and what is bad theater.
I hope so.
Yes. Steffi and I have been actually in a number of different community theaters, and have had experience with a lot of different directors in theater. And we've seen both the good and the bad. And one of the questions that I have for you, because this really pertains to leadership, whether it be in business or in community or in theater, doesn't really matter. What do you think, from a leadership standpoint, what contributes to good theater, and why do you think some of the bad theaters go bad?
Wow, great question. There's a quote that we have that hangs up in the office at our school. It's a quote from General Douglas MacArthur.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And it says, "A good leader possesses two qualities. One, he's going somewhere. And two, he's able to convince other people to follow him." And I think if you want to look at bad leadership in theater, the first part of that is always an issue. Just because you have an interest in plays, or just because you find theater funny, doesn't necessarily mean that you're well equipped to lead other people in that process. You have to know where you are going. It can't just be, okay, let's sit down and read some lines. It takes a great deal of preparation for myself and for all folks that direct theater who want to do it in a professional manner. A great deal of work prior to the time that you ever meet with actors. A tremendous amount of hours are spent studying and poring over words and blocking, which is the movement that appears on stage. All of those things require a tremendous amount of work. As a leader, I have to know where I'm going. And if I do, the convincing people to follow me part comes pretty easily.
Right.
Let's talk about the environment as well that a good leader sets in any organization, because when you talk about somebody who's going somewhere and also creates a type of environment or is the type of leader that people want to follow, what do you think, what would be some things that you would capture in terms of environment that the leadership is really setting in terms of the tone? Because I want to just go back to something here real quick. I mean, a lot of where I've seen in a lot of theater that has been bad, people will say, well, it's drama, so you should expect all this drama outside of the show as well. The drama is not just on the stage; it's in the show, it's in the preparation, it's in everything else. And in bad theater communities, you hear that being said all the time. And when I mentioned that my wife and I have been in a lot of different theater communities, we have been in some community theater where it is so fun from beginning to end. You can't wait for the next show to come.
And that's how it should be.
And the lines are a mile long in terms of people wanting to audition for the shows because they see how much fun is going.
Sure.
So talk about the environment and what a leader does to set good environment. And do you think that it's a fair statement to say that drama should be outside of the show and exist within the cast too?
I don't think so. My mindset, and I tell my students that perform for me right from the get-go on the very first day, I may teach drama, but I have no interest in living it.
Good for you, Steve.
What actors should be able to do is hide within a play. Plays are fun because they allow us the chance to be someone that we're not on a daily basis. They allow us to come in and escape into someone else's world. Well, if I'm going to escape into someone else's world, I can't do it dragging my baggage along behind me with it. So I simply ask my actors to be professional, which means that when you show up at the door, whatever went on at home, whatever went on during your school day, whatever is waiting after your finished rehearsal can wait. Set that aside and go after this. In terms of setting an environment for good theater, I think that requires two things. First of all, it requires mutual respect. Everyone in the cast has to feel as if everyone else is just as important as they are. No more, no less. Just as important. Anytime you get in a situation where actors think that for whatever reason they may be elevated in importance in a show over someone else, that is a complete lie. As a playwright, I can tell you, you do not put a single extra body on that stage unless they are required to be there to carry out your plot, because the more people you write into a show, the more difficult it becomes to figure out what to do with them physically, how to keep the conversation flowing. So no one is more important than anyone else. And aside from the mutual respect that I think has to be there, I believe that open communication is extremely important. I believe that, and that works in any business, but in theater, when you're working with artists, it is very important from my point of view to see it as an artistic exchange between myself and the people I'm working with. There are directors, and I've worked with them, and maybe when you're talking bad theater, you guys have done this as well, but I've had directors whom they pull out their directing book and they flip it open, and they literally treat every actor as if they're a robot. On this line, take 3 steps to stage right. On this line, counter to the left, open the refrigerator, pause 2 beats, pull out a Dr. Pepper, pause 2 more beats, close the door. And everything you do is so scripted out that there is no opportunity for the actors to actually be artists. I see theater as an artistic exchange between people where certain things that I may have decided in my mind as I read through it don't look nearly as good as what one of my actors may suggest or bring into the show.
And in that spirit that you're talking about, there's these people who think, by the letter of the law is how it should be done. So they'll say, the writer wrote this for a specific reason, and this is the reason why you have to do that. And my thought to that has been, well, what was the spirit or intent of that movement? And then when you mention then the individual themselves bringing something to the table there, you add, understanding the spirit of what the show is intended to be, and then adding the character that everybody brings to the show. You can see different renditions of every single show that's written, and they can both be brilliant and yet very different from each other.
The Elk River Community Theater version of In-Laws, Outlaws, and Other People That Should Be Shot has all of the same lines that the Glenver High School version of that same show had. And they are 2 entirely different entities because of the way that the director approached it. And that's fine. That's where art is made. I'm not one of those people that believes that just because it's written in a particular way, that's the only way to do it.
Great.
Well, Steve, unfortunately, we are out of time. I did want to mention this real quickly. One of my pieces of respect here with the In-Laws and Outlaws and Other People That Should Be Shot is that you wrote this show. It's funny. It's not full of profanity and innuendo and whatnot, and you manage comedy without it. And I think that's a great lesson to other writers writing comedy as well out there. Kevin Hunter here on the Business Forum Show. My guest is Steve Franco. You can find him on the web at samuelfrench.com/Steve-Franco. Again, Kevin Hunter here on the Business Forum Show. Thanks for listening.